Based on my audience analysis, I know that you have all heard about the hurricanes that have been causing devastating damage to Florida recently. But do you know why these hurricanes have been so detrimental to an area which has faced previous disasters like these hurricanes? These hurricanes have been of particular interest to people all across America due to their severity and their unexpected behavior. I've spent the last few weeks researching on 6 different sites and figured out what is different about them this year. In my speech, I will inform you on the 2024 hurricane season and compare it to Hurricane Katrina to show how climate change is affecting our natural disasters. In the article, Hurricane Milton Made a Terrible Prediction Come True by Marina Koren, I found that Hurricane Milton spent several days building on the Gulf of Mexico before hitting land on October 9th, blowing up to 180 miles per hour, going from a Category 1 tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in just half a day. The 2024 hurricane season started off strong with Hurricane Beryl, which was Category 5, and hit in July, much earlier than any other in history. Hurricane Helene then hit, breaking storm surge records and dropping devastating amounts of rain. After Helene came Milton. Meteorologists are predicting 4 to 7 major hurricanes this season, and 4 have already hit. Beryl, Kirk, Helene, and Milton. Koren. In the article, Milton hasn't finished taking a toll on Florida, Christopher Kahn quotes AccuWeather, saying Milton will go down as one of the most damaging and impactful storms in Florida history, along with Hurricane Helene's estimated damage and economic loss of $225 to $250 billion just 2 weeks ago. Milton caused certain waterways in Tampa to reach extreme heights, including Cypress Creek, which measured in at 15 feet, breaking the previous record of 13.8 feet, and the Hillsborough River, which reached 15.9 feet, compared to the previous record of 14.7 feet. Hurricane Milton left over 870,000 people without power on Sunday, according to the US Today Power Outage Tracker, 4 days after Milton made landfall. Paraphrased from Christopher Kahn. Laura Kelly, author of Why Helene Caught So Many Residents Off Guard, says that a week after Hurricane Helene made landfall, at least 200 people have died, and that toll is expected to rise as the floodwaters recede and the debris clears. Most of North Carolina counties that had a big impact, that Helene had a big impact on, were not in the high-risk zones on the Federal Emergency Management Agency's flood maps. Many people assume that if they are not living in a high-risk zone on the prediction flood maps, then they are not at risk for flooding. Sarah Prahl, a political science professor at Maxwell School at Syracuse University, stated that these prediction maps are drawn based on the assumption that the past will help us predict the future, but when our climate is rapidly changing, that's not the case. So how is our changing environment having an effect on our natural disasters? Marina Koren states meteorologists warned that record high temperatures across the tropical Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico, along with building moisture in our atmosphere, would fuel intense storms. She then backs up this statement with a quote from meteorologist Ryan Truchlet, saying the climatological rules from the past no longer apply. Preliminary studies done on Hurricane Helene suggest that it was 11% wider and 10% rainier because of climate change. According to the article, scientists believe that global warming is making hurricanes intensify more rapidly too. Milton, Helene, and Beryl all underwent rapid intensification this year. Koren. The article Natural Disasters Don't Feel Natural by Trevor Hughes states that since 1980, the US has typically suffered 8 disasters a year with more than $1 billion in economic damages. But over the past 5 years, the nation has seen an average of $18 billion disasters annually, according to federal data. Hurricanes are powered by heat. A claim made in this article is that the unusual warmth in the Gulf of Mexico is part of the reason for the rapidly intensifying hurricanes. Because of this, scientists say that storms like Helene are more likely to occur in the future. Ian Mackey, a clam farmer in Florida, was quoted by Trevor Hughes saying, "Natural disasters are natural disasters, but these don't feel natural anymore." In the article, Florida's Risky Bet, Zoe Schlanger says that over the course of the next century, parts of Florida's coast will be suffering from regular flooding, if not permanently underwater. Hurricane flooding will reach further inland, and living in certain places will simply no longer be possible. Zoe Schlanger quotes Edward Richards, a professor at Louisiana State University, saying, "Climate change absolutely makes the storms worse, but we focus so much on how bad they've gotten we haven't paid attention to how bad they've already been. Zoe Schlanger. Hurricane Katrina affected 233,099 kilometers, damaged 70% of the housing in New Orleans, caused 1,833 estimated deaths, and cost the federal government $120.5 billion. It brought attention to the vulnerabilities in the Gulf Coast region, as well as revealing policy and government failures relating to disaster management. As stated in the article, Disasters and Environmental Justice Policy, 15 years after Hurricane Katrina, What Has Changed? By Tanya Buehler-Corbin. Corbin also states, the failures associated with Hurricane Katrina prompted a multitude of investigations, including by ADHOC congressional and executive task forces, as well as by Congress and policy think tanks. These investigations occurred during the first year after the hurricane and assessed what went wrong in the preparation for and response to Hurricane Katrina, as well as the challenges during the recovery efforts. Corbin. Seeing the effects of Hurricane Katrina and learning from the investigations done on Hurricane Katrina would lead one to think that Florida would be prepared for any hurricane that comes its way. Hurricane Katrina was so damaging and had a big effect on Florida. So after these investigations, they should have maybe come up with a way to improve their planning for future hurricanes. But as we previously learned, when climate change is affecting our natural disasters, the past is not a reliable indicator of future weather events, which is what made it hard for them to prepare for these hurricanes, which happened this year. Today, in my informative speech, I have summarized how the 2024 hurricane season has been affected by climate change. If you thought this hurricane season was bad, just wait a couple years and we will really start to see the effects of climate change. Climate change has been affecting all of our weather events, but now we have seen how they have really affected hurricanes, followed by tornadoes, earthquakes, other disasters. Here's my works cited, and thank you for listening to my speech.